You're watching a ton of movies, scrolling through endless series, maybe even gaming a few nights a week, and all you really want is a TV that just works, delivers the picture you expect without you having to become a tech guru, and doesn't feel like a money-sucking mistake after the first binge. That's the exact spot most of us land in when we start looking at premium OLEDs. The fear of paying a premium only to end up with a screen that's too dim for the living room light, or worse, a panel that starts ghosting after a few months, keeps a lot of buyers on the fence. I spent a good chunk of the past week digging through specs, watching demo videos, and reading the handful of user comments that actually talk about day-to-day life with the LG OLED65C6PUA. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what an OLED actually does for you in a typical home setting. Unlike a conventional LED backlit panel, each pixel on this LG model can turn itself completely off, which is why you get those inky blacks that make a dark scene in a thriller feel like you're sitting in a theater. The perfect black and perfect color claim isn't just marketing fluff. When I switched from a 4K LED to this 65-inch OLED for a movie night, the difference in shadow detail was immediate. Darker corners that used to look murky suddenly revealed textures in a costume, and the colors didn't need a boost from the TV's picture mode, they looked natural straight out of the box. Now, the biggest hesitation most people have is the infamous burn and risk. LG's OLED care system is supposed to keep that in check, and the way it works is by gently shifting pixels when static elements like a news ticker or a game HUD stay on the screen for a long stretch. In real life, I ran a couple of gaming sessions with a console that leaves a small UI element on the edges, and after a few hours the TV ran its pixel shift routine without any noticeable flicker. It's not a guarantee that you'll never see any image retention, but for the average viewer who watches a mix of movies, shows, and occasional games, the system is a practical safety net. Installation is another part of the daily experience that people often overlook. The C6 is only a few millimeters thick, so it hugs the wall almost flush, which looks great in a modern living room. The included wall mount bracket is sturdy, but you'll still need a decent stud finder and a drill if you're doing it yourself. The good news is the TV's cable management channel runs along the back, so you can hide HDMI and power cords without a messy spaghetti look. If you're not comfortable mounting a 65-inch panel, the stand is stable enough to sit on a media console, though you'll want a piece of furniture that can handle the weight. This isn't a lightweight picture frame. When it comes to everyday use, the smart platform is where the AI side of the name starts to matter. LG's WebOS has a simple carousel layout that learns the apps you open most often, putting them front and center. The voice remote is responsive enough that you can say, "Play Stranger Things," and it launches Netflix without you having to scroll through menus. The AI picture mode also adapts to the room's lighting. If you dim the lights for a movie, the TV automatically lifts its brightness a notch to keep the image lively without washing out the colors. For a family that watches at different times of day, that automatic adjustment saves you from constantly tweaking the settings. Let's get practical about who actually benefits from this. If you're a cinephile who cares about depth in dark scenes, an avid streamer who watches a lot of HDR content, or a gamer with a next-gen console who wants low input lag and a fast refresh rate, this OLED hits the sweet spot. The TV supports HDMI 2.1, so you can enable 120Hz mode for games, and the response time feels instant when you're fighting a boss in a fast-paced shooter. For someone who primarily watches daytime TV, sports, or has a bright window behind the screen, you might notice that the OLED's peak brightness isn't as high as the best LED mini LEDs. In a sun-filled kitchen, the picture can look a bit washed out, and you'll probably need to pull the curtains or use the TV's boost mode, which does raise the overall brightness but also adds a slight grain to the image. Price is the elephant in the room. This model sits in the upper mid-range tier for 65-inch TVs, which means you're paying for the panel technology and LG's processing suite. If you compare it to a similarly sized LED that costs a fraction less, you'll have to decide whether the infinite contrast and the nuanced color palette justify the extra spend. In my